What's going on, everybody? This is your former AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Once a champion, always a champion. Swerve Strickland. Whose house? Swerve's house. You're watching True Heel Heat podcast.
Hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. And we are back once again with another year-end video, this time for our 2024 Men's Wrestler of the Year. We're here to break it all down. And to do that, I am joined by my esteemed colleague, my co-host on the True Heel Heat flagship podcast every Saturday, every Sunday, every weekend here on the True Heel Heat flagship podcast. And he is in festive mode, so am I. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. The True Jaw Josh is here. SP3 is here. And our men's Wrestler of the Year top 10 is here. Our first top 10 of 2024. Josh, how are you doing? And of course, how excited are you to talk about the top 10 wrestlers of the year for True Heel Heat?
Doing well, first of all. And talking about the men's wrestlers of the year this year, it's pretty interesting list, at least compared to like maybe last year. I think there's a lot of options that you could kind of lean with, you could kind of go with, and also ones that that will make the list and you could flip flop. I think that's more of this case for this year. There's a lot of guys who really showed up, really showed out, guys who became stars, guys who proved themselves. So it's gonna be interesting to see what everybody voted for.
Yes, I am I'm interested to see your reaction to this top 10 list that we've assembled here. But just to get it out the way, the usual stuff. Remember, folks, it's the Christmas season. It's the holiday season. We appreciate you. Show your appreciation back the simplest way possible. If you're watching us on the premiere, watching us on demand, remember to drop your thumbs up on this video. You can also share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you. We usually have someone who is around for the premiere. So if you want to interact in the premiere, you could do that with your rest of the True Heel Heat community. But in the other case, if you're watching us on demand, let us know in the comments down below and we can have the conversation there. What do you think were the best wrestlers, the best male wrestlers of 2024? Because we are going to give you our list. Now, our list is not just my opinion. It's not just Josh's opinion. It's not just the True Heel Heat team's opinion. We give out I basically asked the question to everyone on the team, everyone from Miss Chrissy Love to Jimmy Macaram. What is your top 5 wrestlers of 2024? Top 5 men's wrestlers, top 5 women's wrestlers, tag team of the year, major show of the year, match of the year. So you're going to get those top 10s as well. But everyone gives me their top 5 from the team. We also go to the extended True Heel Heat family. Anyone who's been a guest usually gets the message like, hey, do you want to contribute to our awards and our year-end list? And they give their top 5s as well, and as well as our Patreon backers, as well as those in the community who have filled it out, because we put it on the community tab, the form where you could fill it out. So you still have time. If you're watching this right now, if you're watching this on the premiere, you still have time to contribute for our year-end awards, because the voting for that ended on Friday, ends on Friday, December 27th. But this is dropping on Christmas Day. So if you're watching this, this was the cutoff. This was the cutoff time. We're doing this on like Christmas Eve, folks. This is the cutoff time. So anyone who contribute from our community before then, before Christmas Eve, were a part of our voting as well. It's been a crazy 2024, a lot of major moments, a lot of memorable moments throughout the past 12 months. What do you think, like the men's wrestlers overall, how do you think it's going to shape out as far as, do you think we're going to see a lot of people from WWE, a lot of people from AEW? Or are we going to see some TNA people in here? What do you think?
You're probably going to see a lot more WWE people. Just because, WWE's at the hottest, they're at the hottest point at they ever been. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't even surprise me. The best male wrestler is WWE. Wouldn't surprise me. So, we'll see.
We shall see. We shall see. But let us know, like I said before, in the comments down below, what you think. Do you think we got it right? Do we think that we are correct with the best male wrestler of 2024? If you think we are wrong, let us know in the comments down below. We can have that conversation there for sure. But let's get into it, Josh. Are you ready? Are you ready, sir?
Ready.
All right. So we got a couple of. I gotta pull up my my notes here. I got my notepad on my other handy dandy laptop here with all my notes of the voting. So we got to talk about the people that didn't make the list, our honorable mentions. So I'm only gonna name the people who got a significant, like, high voting. Most of these people got like one vote, but at least it was like high up in the voting as far as these people. But you got Joe Hendry, who received like a third place vote. You got Kaito Kiyomiya from over at Pro Wrestling Noah, the GHC heavyweight champion. He received the third place vote. Chris Jericho received a second place vote. Have with that, have you how you will. Mystico received 2 nominations, combined for 4 points. You also got Damian Priest, who got 2 points on 2 nominations. You also got CM Punk, who got 4 points on 2 nominations. And rounding out our honorable mentions, the current AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley, with 6 points on 2 nominations.
I'm a little surprised with Priest, because I know a shitload of people have been behind Priest, so I'm more surprised with that one.
Hey, I can only count the votes that are put in, and
yeah, that's why it's interesting, because I was like, oh shit. I know there's some Puerto Rican members in our team that's not going to be too happy about that.
I mean, I did say 2 points on 2 nominations, so. Anywho, but yes, let's have the conversation in the live chat if you're watching the premiere, in the comments down below. But let's get into things, Josh. And we're going to start off, of course, with coming in at number 10. We had a discussion about this before we started recording this, because it was very close between number 10 and number 11, Jon Moxley, with 2 nominations on 6 points. Also coming in with 6 points on 2 nominations. But the key for this one, they had 1 first place vote. It is Jey Uso. Jey Uso had a breakout year in 2024, or you could say his breakout year was 2023, and that parlayed into a even better 2024, where he came into the year involved in the rivalry with his brother Jimmy Uso, defeated Jimmy at WrestleMania. From there, he was really skyrocketed as one of the most popular superstars in all of WWE. He challenged Damian Priest in France at Backlash for the World Heavyweight Championship, the memorable entrance in with the France crowd. You also had him involved in the Money in the Bank ladder match. From there, he chased after the Intercontinental Championship, defeating Braun Breaker to win his first singles gold in his over 14-year career in WWE. After losing the Intercontinental Championship to Braun Breaker, thanks to the new bloodline led by Solo Sikoa, we had the reunion of the OG bloodline, the Usos reuniting, Sami Zayn joining the bunch, the OG bloodline coming together before War Games, where they picked up the victory in the men's War Games matchup. Jay finds himself at the end of 2024 feuding with Drew McIntyre. But what have you thought about Jey Uso? Jey Uso closing out 2024, coming in at number 10. I was quite surprised. When I saw that first place vote. I was quite surprised, but I was even more surprised that you were our deciding factor when I gave you the two options and you went with Jey Uso. What did you think about his 2024?
Like I said, with Jay, he really stepped up. I know there was times where we were very critical on Jay on the podcast. There was times, I felt like it was rightfully so. Wasn't to like diminish anything that he's done, but with us, especially with fans who kind of like more of like, I want to say technical stuff, but like if you're presented well and you're doing great things in the ring and you tend to evolve in the ring, then we kind of like that a little bit more. And with Jay, Jay, I would say early on wasn't really doing that. It was kind of like we kind of felt like we're getting the same type of Jey Uso in the ring, but I felt like he's been doing some certain things differently. And I felt like part of it too is the character, even though it's not really a character, he's doing the yeet stuff. He really kind of, what do you call that? He kind of embraced it a lot more. So now, every time he comes out, he makes the crowd hot. But what makes it better, in my opinion, is that now he looks presentable. Like he's coming out having presentable matches. Prime example was the Braun Breaker match. That was a great match, and I thought it was a great moment. Even though, it was kind of on the expense of Braun, but then Braun ended up getting the title back, so it really didn't affect him. But with Jay, this was something big for him. But then also just the presentation with Jay, right? Like we seen all the bloodline stuff. Now he comes out by himself. He has his own solo appearance. That's pretty big, and it just kind of shows Jay doesn't need to be a world champion as long as he's somebody who's, he's reliable. You could do something with him. He's going to show out. And I think he's really done that this year.
100% agree with you. He's just connected with the fans on a whole nother level. That's on top of, everything we talked about. He's also become one of their main merchandise movers. He's proven to be an actual draw for the company, which is very rare from someone so late into their career, 14 years into their career, proven to be a draw. So Jey Uso, well-deserving, number 10 on our list here. Now we move on to number 9, Josh, coming in at number 9 with 2 nominations with 8 points. The current AEW International Champion, Konosuke Takeshita. Konosuke Takeshita came into the year riding high, had one of the best TV matches of the year against Darby Allin on AEW Dynamite. He then went on and defeated Chris Jericho on AEW Dynamite before putting on one of the best matches of the year against Will Ospreay. He was involved in the ladder match at Forbidden Door for the TNT Championship, which featured this stellar freaking spot with the Blue Thunder Bomb off the apron through 2 tables. And then it started the Summer of Takeshita. He goes over to Japan, has one of the best G1 climax tournaments in years, putting on banger after banger, whether it be against Yuya Uemura, Hiroki Goto, El Phantasmo, a 5-star rated matchup, Yota Tsuji, the list goes on and on. Konosuke Takeshita really showed that he was one of the best wrestlers in the world over in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then he parlayed that into a bigger push and more exposure on AEW television, coming back at Wrestle Dream, defeating Will Ospreay and Ricochet in one of the best triple threat matches in wrestling history to become the new AEW International Champion. He backed that up with back-to-back instant classics with Speedball Mike Bailey and Josh Alexander from Maple Leaf Pro. Had a great matchup with Ricochet at Full Gear. He's ready to go up against Powerhouse Hobbs at World's End. What a year for Konosuke Takeshita. He's always been someone that, like, people like me, people like Jimmy on AE Ramble, we've always talked about. Konosuke Takeshita is one of the guys they need to strap the rocket behind. They need to put the company behind because he's so young and so talented and so good. So I am so happy to say that 2024 felt like the first year that AEW realized just how talented Konosuke Takeshita is. What did you think about his 2024?
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where, we kind of saw it. Like, when he first got in, we didn't really know what to expect. Like, I think some of us were familiar a little bit with his work, but then when you kind of see how he was gelling with a lot of the AEW talent, where it was like, this guy, he should really become a regular. Because I think during that time he was still in Japan, right? Like he wasn't even signing nobody, and then all of a sudden, I think shit got serious once WWE apparently got involved. They're interested in signing him, and then he chose AEW. And then he was having solid matches, and then I think for me at least, what kind of did it was the Will Ospreay match at Revolution. I was like, oh my god, especially being there in person. Like to witness it, I was like, God damn, And there's a few matches I could say like in person, where it's like you sit there and you just like can't believe what's going on. For me, it was Ospreay versus Jay White, I believe, at World of Worlds. Then it was Kenny Omega versus Danielson, their first matchup, and then this match. I was like, what the fuck? What is going on? I was like, damn, like just everything. And, for them to finally see like, oh shit, we got something here. But also you got to give him credit too, because he did kind of speak up himself. He did kind of speak up. He did it in a way where he wasn't showing up nobody. He just said, it's one of those things where he's capable of knowing what he's doing. He's, he just wants to see, he wants more of it. And, that's when they sent him to Japan for the G1, and that's pretty uncommon just because he came from DDT. So for him to like work with New Japan and that aspect was pretty new. And, he showed the fuck out. He didn't even need to win, and he showed out. And I think that's what benefited him too. Because it was one thing to just go out there and just not, just to be just part of it, but I think it's different when you go out there and you legit put out some of the best matches there. That makes you more noticeable. And then, he finally got his push, right? I think that's what we wanted. He finally got his push, and he did it against Will Ospreay, and it's one of those things where I think at this point, like obviously the next level is the World Championship. And I think he's kind of proven himself when it comes to that. Because he does have big wins. He has wins over Omega. He has wins over Ospreay. So it was a great year for him, especially even like you said, the stuff outside, like that match with Speedball. That was nuts. And then apparently Speedball's coming into AEW, so you might see that again. So yeah, it was a great year for him, and I think next year the potential to be even better.
Yeah, I agree because you see, like last year, he should have had this year. He should have had this year, last year, coming off the wins over Kenny Omega at All In and All Out. But I'm glad that like I said before, they finally realized how good he was. And I just watched earlier today, rewatched the Revolution match with Will Ospreay. Oh my God, I was still popping. I was still popping like it was my first time watching that matchup. That's a spectacular match, in my top matches of the year for sure. But
Moxley, call it now.
we got up next number 8, coming in at number 8. This one surprised me because we got a lot of like late votes for this one with 2 nominations, 9 points overall, including 1 first place vote. It is Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Adam Page came into this year locked in his rivalry, or reigniting his rivalry, with Swerve Strickland. They were both chasing the AEW World Championship. They had a spectacular matchup on Dynamite that went to a 30-minute time limit draw. But in not wanting to get the extra 5 minutes that the fans and Swerve wanted, we started to see a double turn of Hangman becoming the heel, Swerve becoming the babyface before our eyes, that the fans chose Swerve over Hangman, even though Hangman was the one truly wrong, which basically made Hangman snap, and he went crazy. He would become one of the most unhinged characters on AEW television, but his mayhem did not stop Swerve from becoming the AEW World Champion, as he took time off after they both lost to Samoa Joe at Revolution with the title on the line. Hangman did not come back until July, still hell-bent on stopping Swerve and being the one to dethrone him for the AEW World Championship. He wasn't able to win the Owen Hart Cup, but he did interfere enough to cause a distraction for Swerve as he lost the title at All In, which set the stage for All Out. When the contract signing was set for their lights out steel cage matchup at the event in Chicago, Hangman did not show up. Instead, he gave us one of the most iconic moments of 2024 when he set Swerve Strickland's childhood home on fire. And he was cutting some of the best promos in wrestling on the television show as well as on social media. He became the main character of All Elite Wrestling, leading to him defeating Swerve Strickland at All Out for the first time in a lights out steel cage matchup. You had a freaking syringe, cinder blocks, and Hangman finally getting that W. He's been locked in a rivalry with Jay White. They had 2 great matches at Wrestle Dream and Full Gear. Now he is after the AEW World Championship in Jon Moxley. He's getting big pops in the lead up to World's End once again. So I was surprised only because I don't think Hangman had quite the accomplishments. But when it comes to characters and the rivalry with Swerve, I'm not surprised as well at the same time. What did you think? What do you think about Hangman's 2024?
I was a little surprised, but I'm actually on the same boat because I think for Hangman it's more of the turn. I think it's more the character, like you said, it's more the character and the turn. And he did actually have some great matches. The only downside I would say, which is not the worst thing in my opinion, because of what Hangman has become, is the losing. He has lost a lot. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense because he's off his shit. He's not focused, and he's just being a fucking lunatic. So him losing those kind of matches does make sense. You know, like Jay White owns him, right? For example, Jay White owns him, and yet they had 3 incredible matches. So at that point, it doesn't even matter. It's yeah, he lost, but then it makes sense why he lost because the whole story is that Jay White owns him. So and that's why for me it's one of those things where, you know, he loses a lot, but then there's a reason why. You know, I think that's a perfect example of it. And then, you know, his rivalry with Swerve, I mean, top notch. No complaints about that. And then even how they did that double turn. Because I remember I was watching it live, and then when I saw it, I was like, yo, did they just do a double turn? Yo. They did it perfectly. You don't see it that way that it was done, and I thought they did it to the T, because it did catapult Swerve to where he ended up being. But like you said, I think it's more of character stuff, more character, more to that extent with Hangman. So I've been enjoying his stuff this year.
Yeah, I think he's been one of like the low key, the underrated kind of MVPs for AEW in 2024. So I'm happy that he was on our list. Next, we got Josh, number 7. Coming in at number 7 with So yes, 10 points with one first place nomination. We have Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, I think that this is like perfect kind of 8 and 7 to have, because I feel like Drew McIntyre and Hangman are justified heels of 2024. They are justified in everything they say. And they did not win a lot in 2024, either one of them. Drew McIntyre came into this year chasing Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, coming up short to him against him for the world title at day 1. He then won the Elimination Chamber after coming up short in the Royal Rumble. At the Royal Rumble, though, a key moment of the year happened where he gave a Future Shock DDT to CM Punk, injuring CM Punk, and then cut his one of the most memorable promos of 2024, where he told Punk he prayed for this, and it happened, before attacking Punk. Punk was out for a few months. He would return ahead of WrestleMania and would be on commentary for Drew defeating Seth Rollins in a very underrated match for the year, the opener of WrestleMania 40 Night 2. Won the world title. He celebrated with his wife, but he had to gloat in front of CM Punk's face. CM Punk attacked him with his arm brace as well as a camera before Damian Priest cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase to win the world championship. Drew only having a 5-minute title run, which kind of haunted him throughout the year. He wanted to redeem himself. He chased after the world title, eventually getting a rematch at Clash at the Castle. Punk screwed him again, flying all the way to Scotland, putting on a referee's shirt, screwing him over. It led to Drew attacking him in Chicago, taking his bracelet in the process in a bloody beatdown. Drew was screwed over again by Punk after winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match and cashing in a world title matchup. Punk screwed him again. It led to SummerSlam, where Drew beat Punk, but Punk got the win back in a strap match at Bash in Berlin. And their blow-off match, one of the very best matches of the year, CM Punk defeating Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell, redeeming the Hell in a Cell stipulation, and Drew McIntyre putting on one of the greatest matches of his entire career. Drew has returned on a mission to destroy anyone who has helped Roman Reigns or CM Punk, including the OG bloodline. Drew McIntyre, he like, if it was just on me to do awards for True Heel Heat, this man would sweep a lot of different awards. Feud of the year, best on the mic, arguably the best heel, the best true heel of the year. Like, Drew is a lot of those things. I honestly thought he would be higher. That's why I didn't include him in my top 5, but I am glad he's on our list, coming in at number 7. What have you thought about Drew McIntyre this year?
Same thing. I mean, he's had a great year. Same thing, similar character-wise. Because if anybody really needed it, it was Drew McIntyre, especially in a quote-unquote free agent year, because, it was approaching and, he had to do something to pick up his leverage, and I think he did exactly that. So everything benefited him, right? Obviously, realistically, he wasn't trying to injure Punk. It was just a complete accident, to the point that we didn't even know. I kind of didn't notice anything right away. I noticed, like, in the match, I just thought it was just Punk being rusty, but I know he was a little off. But then it turned out like, oh shit, no, he was injured. So I kind of give him credit for actually finishing the Rumble. But then, it just built up to the next night where Drew just cut that promo. And I think that's where everything like completely just took off for him. And it wasn't only just that, it wasn't only the promos in ring, but it was all the social media stuff that kind of came together as well. And I think like that was like his best stuff. Not only on social media, but in general. Like if you compare it to any kind of year Drew has had, a lot of the character stuff this year has really elevated him. Because I think he's always been a great in-ring guy. I don't think you can't really deny that. You know, even when he had his world championship run, it was actually it was a great run for what it was. It was unfortunately it wasn't in front of fans because of the pandemic, but he made it work. You know, so I knew he had something in him. I've always been a huge Drew fan. That's never changed. And I think that this year I was more happy on that level. I was like, yes, like finally he's doing something that's like it means something. Because even the with Punk, I mean, it was a great buildup, and even the 3 matches they had, some of the best matches this year. Even I'm not a fan of like the strap match stipulations, but they made it work. Especially like how that last 5 minutes turned out, like they kind of needed that, and then it ended up still building up, and then led to that Hell in a Cell match, you know, which is that's an all-time match in general. And you know, again, you know, he had a great year character-wise, and then now even the stuff that he's doing now, he's making himself interesting, and that's what I like. It's not like, oh, you needed Punk, right, and then after Punk, you lost your feud, so what the fuck are you going to do? I think this new thing that he's doing, he's going after people in that aspect. It's good because he's not, you know, like, it's one of those things, again, like you're finding new ways to keep him not only interesting, but you're kind of like giving him more to do. Because now if he's going after these kind of guys, you're talking about multiple guys he could face, multiple storylines, and I think that's good for Drew at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's such a layered character. He's like I said, he's one of the best written and performed characters in wrestling today. So glad he came in at number 7. But up next, we got number 6. Number 6 is where we go up a little bit into the double figures here, Josh, because we got coming in at number 6 with 17 points, including one. You got 6 nominations, including 1 first place vote. The current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. came into the year the NJPW World Television Champion, dropping the title to Hiroshi Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom 18. He then regained the title from Matt Riddle in the U.S. I believe this was back in March. Then he held on to the title until dropping it to Jeff Cobb at Dominion. From there, he made the promise. He put his career on the line to win the G1 Climax tournament, and he did just that, becoming the first British wrestler to win the tournament and the second ever foreign wrestler to do that feat. In between all of that, the beginning of the year and this G1 win, he put on one of the best technical wrestling matches of all time with Bryan Danielson. Somehow, some way, outdoing their instant classic at Wrestle Dream in Seattle last year, in Osaka, in front of that great New Japan crowd, and they delivered one for the ages, one of the very best matches of 2024. But Zack's win in the G1 parlayed into him breaking tradition. Instead of taking the shot at Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th, he said he wanted to cash in back in Ryogoku against Tetsuya Naito, defeating him at King of Pro Wrestling to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, becoming the second British wrestler to do that. And he has kept defending the title at a 5-star rated matchup against Shingo Takagi at Power Struggle, defended it back in the UK against Sonata at Royal Quest, and now he goes into Wrestle Kingdom 19 to defend the title against Shota Umino. And hopefully, if he retains that, he will also defend the title against Ricochet at Wrestle Dynasty on January 5th. What a year for Zack Sabre Jr. It just felt Zack Sabre Jr. has always been great. He's always been excellent. He's always been if not the best technical wrestler I've ever seen. He is one of, he's probably top 2. He's probably top 3, and he ain't 3. Probably ever that I've seen in the ring. It was finally New Japan bringing it all together and pushing him to the level that he deserved, and he got there this year. What do you think kind of about Zack Sabre Jr.'s entire year, and did you expect him to be in this place or a little bit higher on our list?
I kind of expected him to be here just because, a lot of us, a lot of fans might not be familiar with a lot of his stuff, but somebody like me and you are familiar with his stuff. So, of course, we're going to vote for what we've seen, and he has been putting out some of the best work of his career. That match with Danielson, I mean, top notch. Those guys know each other very well. They worked before against each other, but his style, again, it's not common anymore. Like the very technical, gritty style is not like something common, and it's not something that you could say, quote unquote, a lot of American fans like or want in wrestling. But he makes it work, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. I think he makes it work. Like when I watched that match years ago with him and Gresham at Final Battle, that was actually one of my favorite matches. And, just straight up grab. Sometimes people just want to see that. Sometimes you just want to see the basics. You want to see something like that, and I think he gives that kind of style, but he's able to work different, with different guys. And he's shown that, right? He's shown that when he faced, right? It was Shingo, right? That he faced?
Yeah.
Right? Like something like that, right? Because Shingo's more of a striker. He's more of like that kind of wrestler. Obviously, Zack is more technical, more grappler, and they made that shit work to a point. That was 5 stars. So, I mean, he has it all. I mean, he's very talented. Even when he gets the mic, he's really good at that because he's a good heel. And then when he finally won the G1, I was like, shit, it was about time. And New Japan was in the state where they kind of needed that. You need to build up not only new stars, but like you got to take care of your own guys. Zack has been loyal enough to to finally get this opportunity. It was good to see. Deep down a little bit, maybe I would have liked to see him get that at Wrestle Kingdom, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they did it sooner because of the UK stuff. So I get it. I think him winning it at home meant a lot more at the moment than doing it in the Tokyo Dome. Probably, he's gonna get his match at the Tokyo Dome regardless anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I mean, it's a good spot for Zack, and he's incredible. Even at one point, WWE saw how great he was because they were trying to sign him, and he said, "No, I ain't trying to stay here."
Yep. He made the right choice in the long run, as you see, in numerous 5-star matches. The aforementioned one against Bryan Danielson at New Beginning in Osaka, had one with Hechicero in Mexico, had the one with Shingo Takagi at Power Struggle, 4 3/4-star matches, abundance in the G1, including the final against Yota Tsuji. What a year for Zack Sabre Jr. But he did not crack the top 5. Coming in at number 5 for us here with 23 points, Josh, 11 nominations. So a lot of nominations with this guy's name on it. Not any first place votes, but a lot of noms with him. The current world heavyweight champion, Gunther. Gunther came into the ring, came into the year riding high on his 666-day reign as the longest ever Intercontinental Champion. He went into WrestleMania to face Sami Zayn in an excellent matchup, going up against Sami, who ended his reign at the grandest stage of them all. Gunther took a month off and then immediately set his next goal, which was the King of the Ring. He went on to defeat Sheamus, I believe Kofi Kingston, and Jey Uso on his way to winning the King of the Ring tournament by defeating Randy Orton and going on to parlaying that to winning the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam over Damian Priest in another terrific matchup. Speaking of terrific matchup, gotta mention his first title defense against Randy Orton, an old school epic WWE style main event in front of one of the hottest crowds of the year in Berlin, Germany. He defeated Sami Zayn on Monday Night Raw to make the defense, and he turned into a great talker on the mic as far as getting heat as a heel. Most notably, his great segment with Bill Goldberg at Bad Blood, or his fantastic segment with Bret Hart in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The work he did with Damian Priest was great. Work with Randy Orton was also great. He took in somewhat of a drop off in the latter half of the year. Not as many excellent matches as he had in the first 8 to 9 months of the year, but still dominant, still the World Heavyweight Champion on Monday Night Raw. The Ring General, another great year. I don't think it was as great as his 2023, but he took a step up as far as in the WWE kind of position-wise, becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. So not surprised to see him in our top 5. Josh, what did you think about Gunther in 2024?
Very much the same. I thought, with Gunther, is way more good than bad, at least. I think the only bad you could really harbor on is, like you said, like the last maybe like month or so or two of his current reign. I mean, it's not really no fault of his own. It's just, sometimes you get and you see him face Damian Priest. I mean, no offense to Priest, but I'm like, how many times do you want to keep seeing that with the, same result? So it's, when it comes to that alone, because it was kind of the same finish, and I was like, what the fuck? And you kind of made him look weak. I mean, we didn't really need to make him look weak. But besides that, like you said, at the beginning of the year, he came in hot because, he was the longest reigning IC champion. Then he had that great match with Sami Zayn, which I thought that was match of the night for night one. Some people disagreed, but both guys worked their asses off. And I thought they told a great story in the ring because he let his guard down, and Sammy took advantage of that. That's what got him to win. And then besides that, the way they've been building him up, he won the King of the Ring. He ends up winning the title. He had that match with Randy Orton, which also I wanted to add to the Randy Orton stuff. That match wasn't probably supposed to happen to begin with, but they did it because, the day of the internet, they asked Triple H about it, and he said, "Hey, we're gonna run it back. We're gonna do something." That was their way to do it, and I thought that was a perfect hindsight looking in, that was a good move because the match ended up being fucking fantastic. Way better than I expected it to be, more so because of Orton, where he's at with his career. But then, like you said, the talking stuff, I think that's what kind of did it for me too, where he's not known for talking, doesn't talk a lot. That's why they have Ludwig Kaiser there, so he could talk for him. But he started holding his own more after he became King of the Ring, being the number one contender. He started talking more. But then also, even the stuff that he's saying, it's not really over the top stuff, but it works. And I think that's what kind of sticks out for me. Because the Damian Priest stuff, he called him street trash, right? Which, that's basic as fuck. To me, it's not insulting, but the reason why it's insulting to Priest is because you find out Priest in real life, there was a period of time he was homeless. So that's why people took offense to it. So it worked. And then the whole thing about Bret Hart, he says favorite wrestler was Bill Goldberg. Everybody knows the history between Bret Hart and Bill Goldberg. And that's why that worked. And then, Bill Goldberg, he's in the crowd for Bad Blood. And then Gunther told him that he lied. He lied about that. He was just full of shit. And then he brought up his kid and all this stuff. And that also made a great segment. It made a great segment to the point that we're like, oh shit, is Goldberg coming back? Is he gonna have a match? And it looks like they might end up having a match. So, when it comes to those kind of things, that's what kind of Gunther needed. Honestly, that's what he kind of needed. He needed to be in a position where the company can have faith in him. So someday, this guy is going to be the undisputed champion. Because we all know he could do in the ring. We all know he's a great worker, right? And we know like that's kind of his gimmick, right? Not only they call him the ring general, but he kind of despises the entertainment aspect of like WWE, like the wrestlers who are like gimmicky and all this stuff. He kind of despises that because he's the working man. He's the ring general. So all that shit kind of works. It kind of comes together. And that's what I like about it. Like he's not over the top. He's not an over top character, but when he's in the ring, he's gonna deliver. And I think that's really benefited him.
Yes, keeps him just out of our top four here, because coming in at number 4 with 4 points more than Gunther at number 5, 27 points overall on 13 nominations. So very similar to Gunther, not any first place votes, but a bunch of nominations with this man's name on it. It's the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Kind of a mainstay at this point as far as these kind of best male wrestlers of the year list. Bryan Danielson came into this year saying that this was his final full-time year of his career. He was involved in the rivalry with Eddie Kingston heading into Revolution, where they tore it down in a tremendous encounter. Bryan coming up short there. Bryan came up short once again in one of the best matches of the year against Zack Sabre Jr., like we mentioned before. That's not even mentioning one of the other best matches of the year, one of the greatest matches of all time, and definitely in the top 2, and probably not number 2 greatest matches in AEW history against Will Ospreay at Dynasty. But it became a common theme of Bryan having great matches and losing to ZSJ, losing to Ospreay, losing to Kingston. He lost in Anarchy in the Arena with Jack Perry pinning him. And he said enough is enough. I need to finish this year out strong, and I need to win the world title at Wembley Stadium. He went into the Owen Hart Cup, defeating Shingo Takagi, Pac, and finally Hangman Adam Page to win the tournament, and then up the ante by putting his career on the line at Wembley Stadium, at All In, and in front of his family, beating Swerve Strickland in another match of the year candidate. And in my eyes, the greatest match I've ever seen live, being there in person at Wembley Stadium as he won and celebrated with his family in the post-match. From there, you had All Out with another great match with Jack Perry. The Blackpool Combat Club turning on him and becoming the Death Riders, led by Jon Moxley, leading to he had a great match with Nigel McGuinness at Grand Slam in New York, then had another great match with Okada for the world title, and then finally capped off his year with one of the best main events on pay-per-view of the year against Jon Moxley at Wrestle Dream, with Moxley winning to become a 4-time AEW World Champion, and Bryan Danielson being stretchered out after the Death Riders murdered him. What a year for Bryan Danielson. Match after match after match. There's so many match of the year candidates. So many on my long list that has Bryan Danielson involved. I brought down my top 20, and so many have Bryan Danielson. I didn't even mention the 5-star classic with Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. That feels like so long ago. But what a year for Bryan. Do you think he had the greatest final full-time year of anyone you ever seen?
What comes to mind? Yeah, I really wouldn't argue that. And it's more so because of the performances. Like, we know what he could do. We know why he chose AEW, because this is why. Like, he was able to be the American Dragon. And this year would kind of show that as well. Especially that match with Okada. Like, I remember the fucking beginning of the year, like watching that match. I watched that match like 3 times. And for me, somebody like me, I usually don't watch. Like, I usually will watch like a match, and I'm like, if I like it, I'll probably watch like a second time. But then sometimes I just let it like simmer. There's only been a few matches I'll watch like so many times. Omega and Okada, that's been something I've been watching a lot. And then Danielson, and Okada. Like, I was like, damn, like that was crazy. And I was happy that they kind of made up for what ended up happening at Forbidden Door, which Forbidden Door wasn't a bad match by any means. It was just the way it ended. A lot of people were shocked, and you end up finding out, oh shit, this man had a broken forearm. He still worked the match. He still finished it. And that's the kind of guy he is. He gets injured, he comes back. He's never changed. Like, he's never, they tell me, hey, you gotta be safer, and he's still the fucking same. You don't give a, and it's not so much, I don't think it's not him not caring. I just think he's so much of a professional that he knows what he's doing. But when it comes to that, in regards to like Danielson, I think this year, the downside you could say was the losses. I think he was more too giving, you could say, per se, right? He was very giving, putting a lot of guys over, which, sometimes is not a bad thing. But for somebody like Danielson, there was a lot of people that wanted better for him, and that's what they wanted to see. And, thankfully ended up working out with that match with Swerve, him finally winning the title. That moment meaning something. And I think that moment, maybe it's a hot take. I don't know. I felt like that moment meant more than the WrestleMania one for me. Just because, like, I remember watching that match with Swerve and Danielson. I'm like thinking, fuck, this is really his last match? Like, because you really don't know. You really don't fucking know. And then when he finally won, I think that was like one of the few times in wrestling where I'm like, fuck, I felt a little tear in my eye right here. Like, I felt that part, and I knew, I was like, damn, they got me. I was like, they got me. But it was worth it, man. Like, man, he's such a fucking true, like, when I hear people say that he's like the greatest wrestler of all time, it's like, yo, I can't argue that, because it's not only his catalog, but man, like, you're talking about like some of the all-time greats. It's like, damn, he's definitely up there. Like, you're talking about top three all time, top 5 all time. Like, he's definitely up there.
Yeah, not surprised to see him this high on our list. And I think any other year he probably would have been higher with the resume he put together in 2024, and just the moment that was All In, one of the best moments of the year for in all of wrestling, honestly. But that keeps him out of the top 3. Let's get into that top 3 here, Josh. Coming in at number 3, it's a very, very close race, I will tell you, here in this top 3. In fact, number 3 and number 2 are tied on points. Number 3 is only here because they didn't have the first place nominations of number 2. Coming in at number 3 with 61 points overall, 17 nominations, which is the most of anyone on our list, including 3 first place votes. It is Swerve Strickland, the former AEW World Champion. Swerve Strickland was riding high off the heels of his excellent rivalry with Hangman Adam Page in 2023 coming into the year. They continue their rivalry, chasing after the AEW World Championship held by Samoa Joe. They had their great match on Dynamite, I mentioned earlier, talking about Hangman, which led into the great triple threat at Revolution, with them both coming up short to Joe. He continued chasing after Joe and finally beat him for the title in April at Dynasty, starting the Swerve Strickland era, or as he coined it, the Dynasty era. Swerve started off slow. I will say there was complaints on social media in regards to how he was booked in the early portion of his reign, but really he got momentum behind him following Double or Nothing after defeating Christian Cage to retain the title at that pay-per-view. He got into the excellent rivalry with Will Ospreay heading into their outstanding matchup at Forbidden Door in Long Island, one of the very best matches of the year. and Will wanting to put Swerve over and make sure that everyone knew he was the man, and they knew it on that night, which led into an even better, brilliant build up to All in London, where Swerve turned into the villain, goading Bryan Danielson, talking trash about him, talking about ending his career in front of his daughter. And then it led into their amazing matchup in Wembley Stadium. Swerve losing the AEW World Championship to Bryan, not before he signed a new lucrative contract, making him one of the highest paid wrestlers in the business today. He had the excellent rivalry with Hangman Adam Page reignite and become even more heated, more intense in the fall, leading to that lights out steel cage matchup, the burning the house down moment, so many more. And then he's ended off the year and another great rivalry with the Hurt Syndicate, losing to Bobby Lashley at Full Gear. But man, Swerve went from strength to strength to strength to strength. I don't think anyone elevated themselves more on our list of the best wrestlers of the year than Swerve Strickland. From where he was in 2023, he is even in a higher place in 2024. I think that if his reign would have lasted longer, he's in like number one on the list.
Yeah, I agree. Swerve, like, man, he really, you're talking about the kind of year he had, not only the year, but just like, man, the way he elevated his stock, man, like, whew. And you're talking about in every aspect. You're talking about not only in the ring, but then you're talking about the way he was, on the mic, carrying the company in that aspect too. And then also just being a fucking ambassador too. I think that matters too. If you're like such a great ambassador, and then, you're promoting the brand everywhere you go, like you see him, like he was doing these they like these radio interviews. He had the title with him, like he embraced that shit. Like he really embraced it, and that's pretty, that's like old school type mindset of wrestling, right? Like when you go everywhere, you present, like if you're the champion, you run with that. He really showed out when it comes to that. And then even the in-ring stuff. I mean, when it comes to Swerve, we know what the man could do in the ring. Yet he found a way to even put that even higher. And it was crazy. He had such a fantastic year, and like you said, mentioning like the beginning of his title reign, right? Like it started off slow, and I think part of it too was the booking factor of, all right, the first show with your new champion, you have him do a vignette, like a segment, but he's not there. Like he's not on the show. All right. When's his first appearance? Oh, you have him on Collision. So it was one of those things where they had to figure it out. But I think once they started to figure it out, especially that one Dynamite, I believe, when they started to figure it out, he was like the focal point of that show, right? He started off the show, then they had him like in the middle segment, and then he was part of he didn't even wrestle the main event, but he was a heavy factor in it because he was in the crowd watching the match. And I think those kind of things did matter. And also, again, like when it comes to his matches, right? He had the Samoa Joe match when he won the title. Then you had the Will Ospreay match for Benton Door, which I was there for, which was another fucking bonkers of a match, which was crazy to see. And then the match that we talked about, Danielson to Swerve, would I have liked to see his reign longer? Yeah, but I think given the circumstances with Danielson, it was kind of like, damn, you got to pull the trigger with Danielson. So I think it's one of those things where it was like, maybe it's bad time, but at the same time, you kind of understand where they're going with that. And then, he took some time off because he had that insane cage match with Adam Page. They had to, and they really sold that very well. The injuries, and all that, they really sold that well. And then he came back, and now he's another great angle with a stable that they're taking serious, right? The Hurt Syndicate. Like, they look presentable. They look like fucking badasses. They beat the shit out of security, and then, they look presentable. And, you know, obviously he's going to have another match with Lashley. Even that match with Lashley, I mean, it wasn't a bad match, but he did his job. He had to get, you know, Lashley had to fucking own him just so he could get his win back. And I think the second match is going to be even better. But overall, I mean, yeah, man, he really raised the stock. You know, people can say what they want. Hey, you don't pay a mid-carder this amount of money. Swerve ain't no mid-carder. He's shown he's a main event player. And, you know, AEW re-signing him and re-signing him for the money that they did. I mean, you got to, man. Like, you know, that's somebody, again, in the wrestling business is all about what you do, right? It's all about elevating yourself and what you could do. He's done it on his own to the point is like he's deserving of that contract. Anybody can say what they want. You know, there was a time where WWE was trying to get him back. So they know, everybody knows what's his worth, and he knew what was his worth. And you know, he cashed in, and he's proven that. And I think he's gonna even prove that continuing that next year.
Indeed, I agree there. Swerve, what a year for him. A feud of the year with Hangman Adam Page, the world title run, match of the year candidates with Ospreay and Bryan. He checked all the boxes for sure, but that moves him into number 3. So he's not in the top 2, coming in at number 2. So, like I said, number 2 and number 3 are tied for total points. So number 2 comes in with 61 points, just 3 points shy of our number 1 on our list of the best male wrestlers of 2024. He had 15 nominations, 8 first place votes. It is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes had a hell of a year being the man over in WWE, kicking off the year, winning the men's Royal Rumble matchup, looking like he was going to get his shot again to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania before The Rock swooped in and looked like he was going to usurp him for the opportunity at WrestleMania. Then there was the excellent WrestleMania kickoff press conference where Cody said he wanted his shot, leading into the incredible road to WrestleMania with The Rock, the final boss, going up against We Want Cody and the Cody movement. Cody and Rock with that. Oh my God. One of the best endings to Monday Night Raw ever. Mama Rose. I've been mentioning it all year since March 25th episode of Monday Night Raw. And that parlayed into, of course, WrestleMania 40, where The Rock and Roman Reigns beat Cody and Seth Rollins in a great tag team main event on night 1. But Cody overcame it all in the most bonkers, insane, bells and whistles, smoke and mirrors, only smoke and mirrors matchup ever. Cody Rhodes defeated Roman Reigns with the help of The Undertaker, John Cena, Jey Uso, celebrating with all the baby faces in the ring, the big celebration, and that parlayed into Cody having a workhorse title run, having a 5-star classic with AJ Styles at Backlash. An excellent matchup with Logan Paul at King and Queen of the Ring. Once again, another terrific matchup with AJ Styles at Clash at the Castle in an I Quit matchup. He battled with the Bloodline once again in the summer, leading to defeating Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. From there, he defeated Solo once again in a great steel cage matchup, probably Solo's best matchup of the year, and then teamed up with Roman Reigns in another great matchup against Solo and Jacob Fatu at Bad Blood. But that teaming with Roman led to Cody arguably his best rivalry since becoming champion with Kevin Owens turning heel after Cody teamed with the man that made his life a living hell, having great matches. They had a great match when they were both baby faces at Bash in Berlin, had a very good matchup at Saturday night's main event, ending with Cody getting dropped on his head with a package power driver in Long Island. I was very much like, literally, It was like every ballot, every nomination from someone coming in, it would swap between number 2, number 1, number 2, number 1. For Cody being number 1, then he's number 2. Number 1, then he's number 2. Number 1, then he's number 2. By the time we started recording this, he was number 2. Cody Rhodes 2024, he was the face of WWE, Josh.
Yeah, everybody knows how I feel about Cody Rhodes. I'm basically the president of the fan club of Cody Rhodes, but I am surprised that he's not number 1. Even though technically when I did my vote, I had him at number 2. So I'm making that clear myself. I had him at number 2, but when I was seeing the other people voting, there's a lot of Codys. And I was like, So I was like, if it's Cody, I think it's justifiable for the kind of year he had. Especially like you said, being the face of WWE for the most part. With his matches, when it comes to him winning the Royal Rumble, that's basically where it all started, because there was not a thought in my mind he was going to win the Royal Rumble again. I was like, there's no way they're doing back to back. And then they went back to back. And then he pointed out who he was going to face, right? And that got everybody excited. And then, the whole stuff with The Rock came out. A lot of people wasn't happy about that. I sure hell wasn't happy about it, but I had my reasons. Not what people think, but it was more of the fact that you kind of make this guy look like an idiot when he just won one of the biggest matches of the year to win. And then you're basically telling him, "Oh no, I'm not gonna face you," which is fucking stupid. It's like winning the championship game, going to the Super Bowl, being the starting quarterback, and then starting quarterback says, "Oh no, I'm gonna pay you a Super Bowl, but I'm not starting this game. I'm not paying you this year for the Super Bowl." So then you got somebody else who's a legend. You sign them to have them start the fucking Super Bowl. Again, I thought Cody handled himself very well when it came to all of that stuff. He didn't bury nobody. He didn't make The Rock, especially he could have gone on real outlets and talked his shit, but he didn't. He handled it the way that I expected him to handle it. And, everything ended up working out. He has the match with Roman, which was, again, to me, was a 5-star match, right? They gave it 4, Dave gave it 4 3/4, which is still a good match, but I thought it was 5, regardless of the quote unquote overbooking. That needed to be done, because you had 20 minutes straight up a great working match. Then the shenanigans happened. But, the way it ended, like it needed to end the way it did, it kind of just felt like a real championship, like a sport, like the way it was announced. Samantha was emotional, and then you had everybody involved. They even showed Nick Khan. They never showed Nick Khan. So like that's how they were making a big deal. But after that, like you said, he had his matches with AJ Styles. He had 2 great matches with AJ Styles. He had his match with Logan Paul, which was actually a really good match. He had his feud. He's always like in and out of the bloodline stuff that's going on. And then now recently, his feud with KO actually means something, because it's like, oh shit, that's actually a really good storyline that doesn't involve the fucking bloodline. I mean, kind of does if you think about it, because the whole purpose why KO's pissed is because of the bloodline stuff. But it's become like its own thing that you're not focused on that. But it's like, it's KO being entertaining. And then also, those guys, 2 matches they had against each other, they actually have been great matches. So it's not like they're bad matches at all. So overall, man, I never expected Cody to be in this position. I never expected him to be the face of WWE. And there's times where I kind of just feel it kind of feels fucking surreal, because this was a guy that I've always been a fan of, even like, going as far as like the Dashing days. I've always thought he had potential. And people thought I was crazy for that. I was like, yeah, I kind of see him as a world champion. They're like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. There's something about Cody that, like, I feel like he's a working guy. Like, if there's something that he needs to be done, he'll do it. And then, the Stardust stuff happened. It was like, oh, fuck, maybe I was wrong. And then he quit. He built his stock for 6 years, and then he came back. And then now, everything has come together. It's still crazy to me sometimes. It was like, damn, like, he's really the guy. Besides, you talk about Roman Reigns, but talking about, like, God damn, they really put the companies really behind them, merchandise and everything. Yeah, man. Great, great to see on a personal level, even though I'm a fan, but on the personal level, to see where he's come, to see everything come together now, like, and then he was even number one, right? PWI. He was the number one wrestler in PWI. So, maybe that's why I'm a little surprised. I'm like, oh shit, he was number one here. But, again, I don't, not to discredit anything that he's done. Great year. I think it's more than what anybody probably either expected or, given the circumstances. I mean, you're taking over a reign that ended 1,300 day reign. So it's like, I think he's been doing his best.
Yeah, I think the only thing that hurts him is that I think that, the first half of his reign was weaker. He did not feel like he was the number one guy on the show. And at any time he's been involved with the bloodline, he's felt tacked on this year.
Yeah. And I think that's like overall, like, I think that's like a WWE issue. Because, I mean, they're going to fall into problems with that.
Yeah.
The bloodline stuff is right in them now, but it's gonna get to a point that it's gonna be like, oh, guys, like, you might need to figure something out, because this is not gonna carry you the way that you guys think is gonna carry you. But overall, Cody, I mean, he's the man.
But he is not number one this year, because number one on True Hill Heat's 2024 Men's Wrestler of the Year, 64 points, 3 points higher than both Cody and Swerve at 2 and 3, 16 nominations, with 5 being first place votes. For the first time on our top 10 here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, we have a back-to-back winner of the Men's Wrestler of the Year. It is Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay had a hell of a year, finishing up his runs in New Japan Pro Wrestling, as well as the UK independent scene to start the year after signing with AEW towards the latter half of 2023. That included a great triple threat matchup with Jon Moxley and David Finlay at Wrestle Kingdom. He had a 5-star rated matchup with Kazuchika Okada at Battle in the Valley before wrapping up his run in New Japan Pro Wrestling as part of United Empire's 5-on-5 dog pound steel cage matchup at New Beginning in Osaka. The emotional goodbye, one of the best moments of the year for New Japan Pro Wrestling. His emotional goodbye to the UK independent scene, and his 6-star rated matchup with Michael Oku for Rev Pro at High Stakes, saying goodbye to the UK before he headed off to US for AEW and started off his AEW run in stellar fashion with an absolutely sensational bout against Konosuke Takeshita at Revolution. He followed that up with a 5-star rated matchup on Dynamite against Kyle Fletcher, and then followed that up with one of the greatest professional wrestling matches of all time, bar none. Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay, AEW Dynasty, 6.5-star rated matchup. Then from there, he won his first championship gold in AEW, winning the international championship against Roderick Strong at Double or Nothing, which was his worst pay-per-view matchup of the year. It was rated 4 3/4 stars. From there, he won back-to-back casino gauntlets and went against Swerve Strickland, another 5.5-star rated matchup with Swerve at Forbidden Door. And then he went into one of his most notable rivalries of the year with MJF in the summer, centered on the international championship and being the number one guy in AEW. They had a near 1 hour matchup, one of the best TV matches of the year in wrestling, where MJF beat Will Ospreay for the international championship, creating the American championship. Will chased after it before winning back the gold in front of his people in Wembley Stadium at All In another 5-star rated matchup against MJF. Then he had another 5-star rated matchup against Pac at All Out. He became Mr. Pay-Per-View at this point because he would have one of the greatest triple threat matches against Konosuke Takeshita and Ricochet at Wrestle Dream, dropping the international championship to Takeshita there. And then he did one of the greatest star-making performances, making a bona fide new star for All Elite Wrestling against Kyle Fletcher at Full Gear, and has been tearing it up in the Continental Classic to close out the year, including another 5-star rated matchup against Darby Allin at AEW Dynamite Holiday Bash. Like, for everything that you could say, Will Ospreay coming into AEW didn't, increase AEW's audience the way some people thought he would. But I think that the way Will Ospreay has transitioned into AEW and felt like the guy that they need to strap the whole company behind, he could be the undisputed face of AEW. It's just undeniable that he is when it comes to just skill, and then he's also brought the character and the presentation in this year on AEW television. When it comes to a complete professional wrestler, I don't think it gets any better than Will Ospreay. So I'm not surprised. It was the late votes that we got that really bumped him up. A lot of people late putting him at number one was the thing that kind of bumped him up to the top. But literally everyone except for one gave one nomination that I got. That we had I think 17, 18 in total. Only one did not have Will Ospreay in their top 5, which says a lot. Will, number one, once again, back-to-back years. It's just the overwhelming amount of instant classic matches where you kind of go to the end of the year, and when we get to our matches of the year list, I think that Will is going to be negating himself. He has so many great matches. It's so hard, and not everybody's going to want to put a whole list of Will Ospreay matches. I think he's going to negate himself in one match that should be on our top 10 list. Is probably not, because Will has so many great matches. But like I said, he's combined that with being one of the best promo guys in AEW. They just need to just give it up, put their hands up and say, Will, this company is yours.
I agree. And, part of that is, Ospreay is very unselfish. And I think we've learned that over time, where how unselfish he really is. He just gets it, man. He gets the business, right? And in that aspect, he's really matured in that aspect. So I just wanted to say that. Also wanted to put on some lights for him for being number one. So I'll do that now. But like you said, man, another year. You're talking about, man. We're going to see, arguably the greatest wrestler of all time to some people, right? It's just the shit he's doing. That's right. And it's not only oh yeah, he's having 5-star matches, but it's the fact that it seems like he's always doing something different, or something kind of just elevates him, right? And you really don't see that a lot, especially with somebody who's worked with a lot of these guys. And then you kind of see, all right, they worked together, they had the match, and then it's damn, I think I could see more of this. I think that the next time they work together, it's going to be even better, and I think that's a credit to Will, just the fucking amount of work he's put in, right? Because there was a time with Will where we were like, fuck, man, this guy needs to like relax. Because he was kind of like putting his body on the line. He was kind of doing a lot of like stuff that was like, man, bro, you don't need to do this. And he actually got smarter. He moved up a weight class. He got smarter, and I think he's even better now than he was then. And that's saying a lot. Because I thought back then, I was like, damn, he's fucking awesome. And then now it's like, he's kind of, I want to say doing less, but he's working smarter. And out of nowhere, he's even better. And like you said, with some of the matches, right? His first match in AEW, right, with Konosuke, fucking incredible match. Swerve, another incredible match. You got a fucking long list of like matches that it's kind of just like, and Danielson, like that was, spoiler alert, that was my match of the year. So you're talking about a guy like you said, it's getting to a point that maybe he probably needs his own category of a top 10 because, man, like he's fucking incredible, man. But then also on the flip side, his talking has gotten better to the point that it's like, oh shit, if he talks, we actually, you listen. And there was a time where Will wasn't there yet. And now you see that, oh shit, like he's actually really good. Because even the stuff with Swerve, the build up to Swerve, like him and the build up they had, every fucking segment they had worked. And it was because of their talking. Like every fucking segment worked. Like that build up was like one of the best build ups, like low key was one of the best build ups of the year because everything worked. Everything fucking worked. And, like you said, man, he's become a guy that, they signed him. They know what they were getting themselves into. And, like this is a guy they could really put the company behind him if they really wanted to, And I think part of it is not so much of it's not AEW holding him back. It's more of, Will wants to give people opportunities. And I get it in a sense, the wrestling industry is not, it's usually a business full of egos, full of guys who want to be on the top, right? You still get that to this day, no matter what certain guys try to tell you. Triple H, there's egos, and it's all understandable. And he's one of those guys where he's kind of, like him and Danielson, they kind of remind me of Sting, where these were guys who are like very, unselfish, they were very giving to others, that to the point that people were just like, come on, like, like if you really, like sometimes it's okay to be selfish, just be selfish this one time and just do this. And, Will might get to that point, not himself, but there's people who are probably going to be like, what the fuck, Will, like just win the championship already. Like you've done enough, just win the AEW World Champion. He has a plan. He has an idea in his head, and he's sticking with that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, man, he's becoming, again, like like I said earlier about Danielson, people say that he's arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. Man, Will, you're talking about another, 5-10 years. It's really going to be hard to argue that when it comes to like at least those two, even them alone, to see who's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, the legacy that he's building is ridiculous, and he's just so young. He's still so young. He's only 32, 33, going on 33. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
He's still so young. He's got years left in the game. But once again, back-to-back, 2023, 2024, True Heel Heat's Men's Wrestler of the Year. You still have time if you want to change that vote. Give the win to Cody Rhodes for our year-end awards that will be going down. We will read the winners voted on by you on the True Heel Heat year-end awards on True Heel Heat 309. That's coming up this coming Saturday, December 28th. So go over and check it out, and also vote on our community tab right now for Wrestler of the Year, Women's Wrestler of the Year, Tag Team of the Year. You get your top fives for a few. You can give one answer for a few of them. So have fun at it and vote right now. That's over on the community tab. But thank you so much to the True Jaw Josh for joining me for our Men's Wrestler of the Year top 10 here. Josh, let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow me, JMPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. And I'll be back for Chill Heat this weekend, 11:05 Eastern.
There you go. This coming Saturday, join us for that. We'll have final predictions for AEW World's End. We got our AEW World's End preview that's coming up on Friday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and Cresta, the star from Fightful, will be joining me to preview the card for this coming Saturday. We got AE Ramble on Thursday with me and Jimmy Macaram. Plus, we got a bunch of great content for you to enjoy right now, like True Hill Heat 308 from last Saturday with me and the True Jaw Josh and Miss Chrissy Love. If you like to see just me and True Jaw Josh talking about the year in review, go over and check out our tier list for WWE. Our WWE men's tier list is up right now, as well as our WWE women's tier list is up right now. I believe the men's list will be up either it's been up before this or it'll be up later this week, but check out our women's tier list right now. And speaking of the women, we'll have our top 10 Women's Wrestler of the Year list. That will be me and Miss Chrissy Love. That will be up on the channel during the holiday season. But we want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, Happy New Year to everyone watching. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Just enjoy your holiday season. Enjoy it with your family and your loved ones. And of course, keep on loving True Hill Heat and join us back here when we are back live on Boxing Day. But until then, for the True Jaw Josh, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been True Hill Heat's Top 10 Men's Wrestler of 2024. We are signing off until next time.